Hey guys, my name is Bando, this is Rex the Bando. This is the second time I'm recording this video because guess what I forgot to do again? Right, today I'm going to be talking about the Golden Demon entry guidelines that have been announced. Golden Demon is one of, if not the largest Warhammer painting competition in the world. Usually held over in America at Adepticon, but recently has been missing from the UK, actually for quite some time now. And this year I believe is being held in Essen, Germany. Now, last year we had some controversy with Golden Demon, and I believe possibly even the year before there was some controversy. And the new guidelines have come out, and while I won't be going blow for blow on the differences, and many of these differences, or many of these points may have already been in them, I feel that there are several that they're being re-stressed that I thought would be quite interesting to look at. Golden Demon was always something I've wanted to enter, but never had a chance to do so. I simply didn't have the means of getting up to the Birmingham NEC arena. I didn't have the money to go. Train tickets that far up the country cost as much as a flight to Germany for some reason. And, my parents were obviously always busy. I grew up on a working farm, so at the sort of time this was going out, they were usually incredibly busy. Which is sad, because as a kid I always wanted to enter the Youngbloods competition. So, Golden Demon is a painting competition. You can win gold, silver or bronze for each category. You can also earn pins for notable, commended and finalists. And then obviously the ultimate prize is the Slayer Sword. The Slayer Sword is a literal great big, very, very sharp sword, from what I'm told by a previous winner. This was always the biggest sort of painting competition for Games Workshop. In White Dwarf, it always filled a good section of one of the issues, and at local stores would often be, the subject of a lot of conversation. Having a Golden Demon winner at your local store was a big flex. That cabinet would be full of their stuff. They'd be, they'd a lot of the time they'd ask, can we put it in the cabinet for a while? And it was cool, and it really pushed painters to kind of go a bit bigger and better. So other than the normal entries, you also have the Youngbloods and the open competition. The Youngbloods is for kids under 16, and open competition is open for everyone, including Games Workshop staff. And it is basically anything that doesn't fit into an existing category. This is where you see armies, you see great big conversions, you see really cool dioramas, props, helmets, that sort of thing. And it's where really some of the absolute wildest stuff comes from. Obviously, they're not in the running for the Slayer Sword, just like the Youngbloods, but to win open categories for a pretty big one. I think it was a couple of years ago. Open category had a bit of a controversy because a GW staff member won it with a miniature that wasn't available at this time. It hadn't been released. It was one of the Dark Oath guys, and there was a little bit of a harumph from the community over that. So, we're not going to look at the how to enter stuff. That's all only really applicable to the competition itself. We're going to look at the entry guidelines. So here, all miniatures must have been produced by Games Workshop. This includes all Citadel miniatures, Forge World releases, and any other specialist game product produced by Games Workshop. Entries can be or contain Citadel miniatures that are out of production. Well, that's really, really interesting, because Citadel Miniatures produced some very, very interesting miniatures, and some miniatures that there is a specific miniature that I would love to try and get my hands on and try and show off. I mean, this is why Armies at Parade has had a guy doing a rogue trader army for so long, because he can, which is absolutely fine. I am just scrolling back up through Discord to try and find the picture of the miniature. There it is. Citadel Miniatures produced this. a very long time ago. Um, it was. There's a lot of rumor and myth surrounding this, but the most common prevalent one is this was a Jess Goodwin sculpt that was made to try and win a license from LucasArts to make a Warhammer version of Star Wars. I would love to try and get my hands on one and try and enter it. The other one would be like Wizard with a machine gun. But yeah, lots of old models. If you've got older models, you can enter them, which I think is great. There are some really old, Warhammer models that you could do some fantastic work with. For example, where is it? Sorry, da-da, nobody likes da-da, doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. We were just talking about this one. Real professional operation I've got here. I'll have to fire my editor. Then... There he is. I mean, could you imagine trying to win the Slayer's Sword with that? I'd give it a go. I think it'd be hilarious. Oh, pardon me. Right. So, conversions and scratch-built entries are allowed, as long as they are in scale and set thematically within one of the Warhammer worlds or universes. That's great. There was a lot of uproar over the armies on parade, because GW came out and said there's no mixing of anything. You can't mix Age of Sigmar with 40k, you can't mix Heresy with Lord of the Rings, any of this, and absolutely not. No conversions, no bits. Then they had to kind of walk that back when people were just like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. They've clarified here and basically gone, it's absolutely fine as long as it's thematically, in the setting. This does not extend to entries set in Middle-earth, and this is where things get interesting. Further information on this, blah, blah, blah. Entries must be representative of the Warhammer or Middle-earth setting. Fine, absolutely fine. They cannot feature real-world or alternative franchise iconography, slogans, or imagery. That's fine. You don't want your, Golden Demon winner to be an orc boy holding up a, political statement. You don't want him holding up, a Diet Coke can, whatever. Something you don't own the copyright to produce. Because, they want to photograph these. You don't want, Nike's Just Do It logo and swoosh all over this Eldar model that you're going to then have to go and purchase the rights to reproduce in your White Dwarf magazine. Entries do not have to adhere to in-game rules in terms of weapons, mounts, unit size. The entries are governed by the category, descriptions, and competition rules alone. Love that. Absolutely love that. I think that's fantastic. You could do a really cool Ultramarines veteran squad fighting fighting off the word bearers, and they're all beaten and broken, and none of them have the correct weapons, none of them have the correct, bits on them. They're covered in melter bombs and grenades because it's all they can get their hands on. They've got chainswords. One of them's got, a heavy flamer. That'd be really cool, But, you can't take that. That's not a legal list. Fine, who cares? Entries must be attached to a base plinth or display. That's fine. That's always been there. Entries which contain loose miniatures can't be accepted. That's because they just need to be able to pick it up and move it. Entries must be fully built, cannot be entered into the competition if they're damaged. Again, these are all pretty normal. Must be fully dry, hand painted. Entries must be hand painted, digitally painted. Paint printed entries are not permitted. That's very weird. I've never heard of digital painting for a miniature. I assume what they mean there is, they can't do photo manipulation. It can't just be a photo of a miniature. It can't be something that's 3D printed with the print and color. But I'd be very interested to find out more about digital painting and paint printing. Entries that contain sculpting by the entrant must be done from scratch. 3D scanning is not permitted. Now you'd think 3D scanning, that's a bit strange. What's 3D scanning? You don't mean 3D printing? I won't. In fact, 3D printing is not mentioned in this article at all. 3D scanning is where you use lasers and receivers to build a 3D model of something. You rotate it, you scan up and down, up and down, up and down, and you build the model again. It's very popular in things like model railways, where they 3D scan. You often see it in model railway shows. They'll have a booth where you can go in with props and costumes, and they'll 3D scan you, and then they can print out miniatures at your scale, because model railways have half a dozen scales, of you, and you can put them on your little model railway. Do you want to be, Uncle Terry doing the old, coal shoveling in the in the wagon sort of thing? Yeah, you can have that. Now, why is 3D scanning not permitted? Well, first of all, because it's piracy. Russians love it. They keep 3D scanning models from Games Workshop and uploading them, and people keep buying them, and the quality is mixed. But mostly it's because of Neil Hollis, not Neil Hollis's, it's because of Neil Anderson's Gollum. That's a horrible picture. This is the only one I could find. Neil's scanned the Gollum model and 3D printed it again, and basically he changed the pose on the model so he could depict Gollum at his final moment of triumph before being booted into the lava of Mount Doom. This was quite a controversy because this was widely considered one of the best models at that Golden Demon, but it was disqualified at the last moment because of how he'd produced the model. And I believe there is a video on YouTube of this whole thing, going into the detail of what he did and why he was kicked out. But yeah, he scanned the model and modified it and reproduced it, making it not a Citadel miniature, and also being an infringement of their copyright. Now there's more of that to come later. Must be basically individual miniatures or entries are painted by one person. You can't work on something that was sculpted by someone else. This was a big deal during the mid-2000s with Spanish and French painters who would paint in teams, and they'd get 2 or 3 people painting the same miniature. It is supposed to be a painting competition for a single person. So we have all the different descriptions of categories. Single miniature is a single miniature. It doesn't matter if it's, a character or just a single unit. And it is basically a normal size miniatures. Anything considered larger than certain points have to be put into monstrous creatures or vehicle categories. So you've got single miniature for 40k and for Age of Sigmar, unit and kill team for 40k and Sigmar, but it's whatever they call their version, Warcry or something. Large miniature vehicle is large miniature and War Machine. That's your tanks, your avatars, that sort of thing. And then you have the Heresy. Heresy is for anything Heresy related. That could be anything from a Titan down to a single miniature. But does not include, I believe, the epic scale stuff. Old World, exactly the same. Anything from a dragon down to a skeleton. Now, Middle-earth strategy battle game is for only Middle-earth stuff. And must be for miniatures mentioned in basically any of their games. Blood Bowl, Necromunda, pretty self-explanatory. Epic scale is anything epic scale, so anything that's not the 28mm scale, but smaller, goes in here. That includes Aeronautica Imperialis, Legions Imperialis. It includes Battlefleet Gothic, anything like that. Diorama is building a diorama. Duel is a duel between 2 people. Youngbloods, under 16s, open category, anything you want. And where we go. Are you able to sculpt your own miniature? Yes, you can. So that was some of the controversy with this miniature. in the sense that this was 90% scratch built. People were like, well, it's not a Warhammer model. It's allowed. Okay? It's got to fit into the universe. There were a couple that were disallowed because they didn't fit in the universe. And they've got to use GW parts. That's fine. But here we get the interesting parts again. Please note that submissions into categories outside of Middle-earth category may not use components from the Middle-earth game. You cannot use any parts from a Lord of the Rings miniature with a full-sized Warhammer miniature. And likewise, you cannot use any Warhammer parts with Lord of the Rings parts. You cannot convert Lord of the Rings models. You can repose them, but alteration to the likeness of the character, their armour or weaponry, is not allowed. So again, that is most likely because of Nils Anderson and his Gollum. It's also probably due to the licensing with New Line Cinemas. Can you use third-party basing materials? Yes, for rocks, trees, and barrels. However, that does not include third-party kits that have used GW intellectual property. Fairly understandable. Am I allowed to enter a miniature sculpted by someone else? No. Am I allowed to use artificial intelligence to generate any part of my entry? No. That's very strange, isn't it? Not really, because this is the other Neil. This is Neil Hollis, who got into a lot of, I wouldn't say trouble. I think it's fine. A lot of people had complaints because the background he used on his display plinth was AI generated, apparently. I don't think that matters. You're judging it based on this and the actual physical base. This should be completely, out of mind when judging the model. His Exodite is fantastic and the basing is fantastic. But I understand it's their rules, that's absolutely fine. How many times can you enter? 14 times. Does it have to be game legal? No. Where's the other one? Would miniatures from Battlefleet Gothic, Dreadfleet, Man-O-War be considered epic scale? Yes, so that was that earlier. Can I enter my converted or scratch-built miniatures that represent a character or unit that are not currently represented in the Middle-earth game? No. You can only represent characters that are currently shown in the game. You cannot accept entries that represent these characters into any category of the competition. Can I use Middle-earth strategy battle game miniatures to represent or convert characters or settings in my entry that is not based in the setting? If your entry is set in any of the many Warhammer worlds, we cannot accept entries that are entirely or have been converted in any way from using Middle-earth parts. They've already said that, but they just come over. Can entries cross over? No, they can't cross over. Which is kind of interesting because I'm pretty sure at one point some Age of Sigmar characters or fantasy characters meet a Grey Knight, so you can't ever represent that. Do I need to be present? Yes, you do. That's always kind of annoyed me because it's like a 2-day event and you have to enter on the first day and then be present on the second day. And that just means that the cost of the whole trip goes up so much. I mean, there's really silly ones. I haven't done my entry form. Can I still enter? Yes. You just have to fill out the form. I think that's all of the interesting ones. Yeah, that's it. So really, it was the fact that Middle-earth seems to be getting singled out a lot, and they're becoming very, very strict on what is okay for their official competitions with Middle-earth. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these filter out into their armies on parade and any sort of official tournaments with Middle-earth as well. Well, I know it's not the biggest and most popular game, it is still quite interesting to see. So let me know what you think about that. Are you planning on entering Golden Demon this year? Have you ever entered Golden Demon? If you have any comments, pop them down below. It's always welcome. And if you want to support the channel, like, comment, subscribing is free. You can always make a donation. Many thanks to those that do. And if you are in the UK looking at picking up stuff, Element Games, you can use my reward code to double your reward points at purchase. I get nothing, no kickbacks, no links or anything. I just get the reward points from you as well. And you get double the reward points. So, we both win. But, be advised, if you're outside of the UK, taxes and imports may really suck for that one. If you guys have any questions, please pop them down below. If you have anything you think I should be talking about, let me know. If you want to come join our Discord, please just ask and I will get you a fresh invite link. My name is Bando. This is Brexit Bando. Have a great day. Bye-bye.